Pacifica Radio, I'm Christina Onnested. The United Nations now says it will need $1 billion to provide aid to Turkey and $400 million for aid in Syria as the death toll from a 7.8 magnitude earthquake tops 43,000, the vast majority in Turkey. Stefan Dujarric is a UN spokesperson.
Funding, which covers a 3-month period, will assist 5.2 million people and allow aid organizations to rapidly scale up vital support for government-led relief efforts in a number of areas, including food security, protection, education, water, and shelter.
Dozens of contractors are now under investigation in Turkey for shoddy developments that crumbled under last week's quake, the destruction of tens of thousands of buildings, some 50,000, according to Al Jazeera, has left millions of people homeless. Rescuers are still pulling survivors out from the rubble nearly 2 weeks after the quake. Overnight, they pulled out a child, a woman, and 2 men alive from the wreckage. The AP's Charles De La Desma shares one survivor's story.
Hush says, "At first I was unconscious and then I opened my eyes and started calling for my dad. He said, 'Yes, I can hear you. Are you still alive?' Then Hush said, 'My dad started calling, "Please, anyone, get my kids out, leave me here, and just pull my kids out.' Hush ends, 'Honestly, we lived death 1,000 times under that rubble.' They all survived. While rescue teams from around the world went to help in Turkey, aid relief for Syria was slowed by demolished roads and by the tensions between rebel-held areas of the country and those controlled by the government of President Bashar Assad. I'm Charles De La Desma.
World leaders are meeting at the annual security conference in Munich. The war in Ukraine is a main topic. With the 1-year anniversary 1 week away, Iran and Russia are not in attendance. Vice President Kamala Harris, NATO officials, and Ukraine's officials are. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky addressed the conference, urging the delivery of weapons via video.
We need to hurry up. We need the speed of our agreements, speed of our delivery to strengthen our speed of decisions to limit Russian potential. There is no alternative to speed because it is the speed that the life depends on.
Meanwhile, Russia's siege on Bakhmut is grinding on, and analysts now say it will likely not gain control of the city by the 1-year anniversary of its war. In the U.S., bipartisan group of lawmakers have introduced legislation to designate Russia's mercenary Wagner Group a terrorist organization. Christopher Martinez reports.
The Russian private army known as the Wagner Group has a reputation for brutality. Now, a bipartisan trio of senators wants the U.S. to call it a terrorist organization. They've introduced a resolution called Holding Accountable Russian Mercenaries, or the HARM Act. Senator Richard Blumenthal is a Democrat from Connecticut.
This organization is a pariah. It is outside the bounds, beyond the pale of civilized nations, and we should take this moment, the first anniversary of Putin's murderous invasion, genocidal aggression against Ukraine, to say that the world will not tolerate groups like Wagner.
That designation would open the door for other actions. Republican Lindsey Graham of South Carolina explains.
This means people associated with the group can be expelled from the United States, denied admission, people assisting the Wagner Group in any fashion subject to sanctions, and we're putting it on the baddest list we know how to put any organization.
I'm Christopher Martinez.
President Joe Biden addressed China's spy balloon after lawmakers called on him to do so, saying the U.S. is developing sharper rules to track, monitor, and potentially shoot down unknown aerial objects. Biden has directed National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan to lead an interagency team to review U.S. procedures. Nick Harper reports.
I make no apologies for taking down that balloon.
Speaking at the White House, President Joe Biden said he will always act to protect the United States.
Make no mistake, if any object presents a threat to the safety and security of the American people, I will take it down.
His comments follow a 2-week period during which the US has shot down 4 objects, 1 Chinese surveillance balloon and 3 unidentified objects, which the US president reiterated had no relation to China. Biden added he expects to speak to President Xi. No word yet, though, on when that might happen. I'm Nick Harper in Washington.
Officials say a second Norfolk Southern train hauling hazardous materials has derailed, this time near Detroit, but no chemicals spilled. This comes nearly 2 weeks after a Norfolk Southern derailment in Ohio left a mangled and charred mass of boxcars that had been carrying various hazardous chemicals, polluting air and forcing evacuations. In Ohio, head of the U.S. EPA got a first-hand look at the aftermath of the freight train derailment, where toxic chemicals spilled or were burned off. At the aftermath of the freight train derailment Thursday, I'm Christina Onnested reporting for Pacifica Radio.